Welcome to the Latino Engine, the podcast driving economic power. I'm Carlos Martin, your host. Latino Engine is all about amplifying the visionaries, entrepreneurs, and professionals making an impact in our community. Our economy grows when we reinvest in each other, fueling progress and expanding our impact. Today, I am joined by Refugio Atilano, better known as Ref, a second-gen Mexican, Chicago native, and first-gen graduate. As a director of cultural competencies at a global pharmaceutical company, he helps connect with the underserved communities. He chairs the Ahora Latino ERG, is a DEI advocate, and an author of the Latino Leadership Playbook and founder of the Latino Leadership Club. Let's roll the show.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, likewise. Refugio, but we all know him as Ref. Tell me how that. I don't think I've ever asked you how that came about. I mean, obviously Refugio Ref, but how did that come about?
Yeah, it was my dad's name, right? And so I'm a junior, and my son has the same name too.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
And to be honest, that was just all our names. We just always used Ref. That was just how we grew up. We didn't put much thought. I don't think we put much thought into it, but that's how we ended up. And I love, use my name, and I use the Refugio as well. It seems like more people are more using that lately, which is cool.
Yeah, it's funny how we use nicknames. In our community, it's a big thing. I can't believe I'm going to say it, but my nickname growing up in Mexico was cejas, which means eyebrows. I don't know why. Till this day, my brother calls me cejas. So I wanted to tell the story and how we met, and I want to say we were introduced by Emmanuel Lopez, which he was part of the cohort that I was facilitating the leadership development for ACE, a mutual friend of ours, Patricia Mota. Is that how we met? Is that I think right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. I get somebody, we met on LinkedIn at some point or text or whatever it was. But sometime last year, and I saw the amazing work you have done and you continue to do,
Thank
and
you.
right away I was very drawn to it, especially your you're just you're kind of putting yourself out there to develop your network, right? It's so important for all Latinos, not just you. But right away that stood out, right? You want to network and network well and network strategically, and so I was happy to help, and we're here today.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. And one thing that I think I mentioned, and I wanted to bring it up now, is that I reached out and you gave me, I was expecting 5 minutes, and I think we talked about 45 minutes the first time, and we've been talking ever since.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that because there's a lot of people that say, "Hey, no worries, I got your back," or, I'll talk to you, and then puff the magic dragon. And with you, one thing that I appreciate, one of many things, is you really walk the talk, or whatever the term is that you say you bring Latinos together and you look back and try to help others, and that's what you did and continue to do with me. So I wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to talk about the why in a little bit, but I'm going to skip to that just a little bit here. Why I do that is because the reach we need to have as a community, right? To literally reach every Latino out there. And obviously, I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone.
Mhm.
But when we come together and do it together, it's not just a tagline. It's real, right? When you do it, and we have many other Latinos and Latinas doing this. Oh my God, we're hitting so many people now, right? We're changing the conversation. I see it, I feel it, and I hear it. And so when I'm helping, I help because I know the potential of you helping others. So that's why I do it.
Ah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, and there's a certain energy, there's certain je ne sais quoi that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on right now, without getting political. But right now, the way that I see it is, how do we come together and how do we amplify our voice and how do we lead by example? So thank you again for being here. Also, can you? We have tons of mutual friends, and one thing that I think now, that the way that we really hit it off was at Frank Carvajal's
Mm.
summit in up north by San Francisco. So before we go into the meats and potatoes in regards to the business, I want to touch a little bit on the personal side. Can you tell us a little bit about you, whatever you feel comfortable telling us, Ref?
Yeah, I've spoken a lot of these podcasts about my background and everything, so I won't go too much there. But I do want to say is I love just to try to mix it up. I love golf. I love sports. So for me, it's a big part of what has helped shape me. Team sports specifically. When I was younger, I was a quarterback, football player. I love American football.
Oh, I didn't
hmm
know that.
hmm And I remember even back then, writing my own plays, teeing up. We're all Latinos, and we used to play against the bigger, other non-Latinos, the black teams and the white teams, right? And but we always won because I was very strategic in how I used our talent, right? I was very and we had to be, right. We weren't as fast, we weren't as tall, but we were very smart. So we positioned ourselves well. We had
Mm.
plays that took advantage of numbers, right. We did a lot of misdirection, and the fast guys we did have, we made sure we had plays to take full advantage of that. And on defense, we placed ourselves very strategically where we didn't allow big plays to happen. So it started early in my life when I brought this team sports element
Mm.
to the forefront, and I use that same stuff in business today, right? I still do the same things. Everything I do is strategic. So whether it be advancing our Latino community, whether it be within my current role at AbbVie, I'm always thinking, how can I add the most impact, most value with what I have? And I also study the competition. I study the environment, right? I see where the opportunities are, where the holes are, that I can jump in, lean into, and really optimize in those spaces.
Yeah, you're definitely very strategic. We were having a conversation early on in the year. I think you're on vacation and having the strategy for your plan of attack, if you will, for a lack of a better term, for 2025. And I remember it's like, oh, this person is strategic. And now you're talking about how you learn this at an early age to be able to play defense, quarterback. And as a quarterback, you kind of have to know the entire game. So tell me a little bit about your. I know you mentioned a little bit about your why. So go a little bit more into your core beliefs, your personal, what shapes you in regards to your why, your inner purpose, your inner compass, as I like to call it.
Yeah, and I'll even go as far as saying my inner fire.
Mm.
I'm I like to think of myself as I want to do my best to advance humanity. Bottom line, I don't care if you're Latino, white, black, purple, doesn't matter to me. Well, it does matter, I should say. I should say it doesn't matter, but I'm in this to advance everybody I touch. Period. Right. Because I'm Latino, I have definitely a deep heart and passion for the Latino community, which I'm always going to lead with. Right. That's always super important to me. But I do a lot for everybody. I meant, to be honest, when I mentor in my role at work, 90% are non-Latino, right? And I enjoy it. I enjoy learning about the different backgrounds, cultures, and even the white community. I mentor white people as well, and it's just I always learn something from the experience, right? I always take away something that it adds value to somebody later down the line. And so when I think about my why, my passion, it's really about advancing humanity, using what I'm good at. I'm good at uniting. I'm good at mentoring. I'm good at pushing things forward, right? I'm good at
Mm.
innovating and getting people rally behind that. And so I see those natural gifts as a way to give back and to advance humanity. So for me, that's my why.
Thank you for that. You bring up something really important to me, for me, and obviously for you, the mentorship. I didn't grow up having a mentor or a coach or a sponsor.
Mhm.
Can you touch a little bit about that and how that affected you on a personal level?
Yeah, like you, I didn't have anybody growing up either. I came from humble beginnings, just like a lot of us, inner city Chicago. And it wasn't until like mid career where I had a mentor, and I didn't even realize it was a mentor. It was like he was a buddy who was an executive. He goes, "Hey, let me show you this, right? Let me show you that. Let me teach you about business. Let me show you how to sell a business story." I'm like, "Cool, let's do it." Right? And for me, I was just learning and hanging out, and I didn't realize it was mentoring. Right? And he's an executive, which again, I didn't know the importance of that executive point of view either. But he mentored me. Right? He showed me the power of relationships, which I still use today and I lead with today. And he was a white guy, but he was phenomenal at relationships. He always told a great business story. He was really good at numbers. I remember that. He always talked in terms of numbers. So I used that as part of my business storytelling. Um, it was things like that. And
Mhm.
he took time to kind of taking time.
Mhm.
He always took time to introduce me to people. He's like, "Hey,
Mhm.
let me come over here. I want to introduce you to Ref, right?" And to these senior executive CEOs. Dude was just always in the action. And I've always remembered that. And today we're still friends. And so he was my mentor, became my sponsor. He fought for promotions for me and for raises. Again, not knowing it was a sponsor back then, but when I look back, it is, right? And so that's what really changed my career is having that exposure, that someone who believed in me. And obviously it's not just someone who's a believer. You have to be believe worthy, if you will. You have to have some talent. You have to have some fire, right? And passion.
So you probably saw something in you, like a diamond in a rough, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah. So anyhow, I had to show my end, and it was a great fit, and personality wise, we clicked, and that was my exposure to mentorship, and from there, I just kept on that path.
Thank you for that. If someone, a young Latino, Latina is listening, what advice will you give them if they are looking or should be looking for a mentor? What do you encourage them to do?
Yeah. Number one, again, you have to be mentor worthy. And then when I speak of mentor, I speak of like very senior level. Anybody can get a mentor at your own level if someone who knows stuff, right?
Mm,
Um, but in my opinion, in order to advance your career, you need senior level folks. So it could be a president of a nonprofit or a vice president of a nonprofit, or in a corporate environment, a vice president or above, or in education, it could be a provost. I don't know, I'm making this up on the education side. I don't work that much in there. But bottom line is you want to shoot high. But as you shoot high, you have to have a plan of attack, kind of go to your plan of attack. What is your career plan and how can they help you, right? Because just imagine yourself. If someone, just a kid, comes to you and says, hey, mentor me. Okay, where do we start, right?
yeah.
But if a kid came to you, hey, I would love to get to know you. I've followed you. And here's why here's why I want to connect with you. And by the way, here's what I'm trying to do in my life. And
Mm,
I'm going down these three paths. What do you think? And by the way, if it's okay with you, I would love for you to mentor me and help me get to those places, right? That's a cleaner story than just showing up someone's doorstep and saying, "Hey, mentor me." It doesn't work that way, right? If someone did versus the kid that had that kind of like at least put some thought into it, right?
mm,
That self leadership. Now that's the person that I want to mentor.
mm.
And so, as you being as college students or professionals, again, it's the same thing. You got to come prepared, come game time ready, come being mentorable or sponsorable.
Yeah. I like the way you put it, like have a clean story. A lot of things as an executive coach, a lot of things that when I talk to my clients is not having that clarity of what they want. So in this case, what you're saying, the before getting a mentor, getting the mentee to be able to put some work on themselves, like what is it? Obviously not have everything figured out, but at least have some sort of clarity, a clear story before they do that. So, because one thing that I hear from mentees is A, they don't think about having a mentor. The other thing is they don't know how. So, say they have their clear story. What are some of the ways that they could reach out? Is it within their network? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it depends where you want to grow. So, if you're in a given organization and you want to get to another role or different business unit or whatever it is, do your research. Who's leading those departments right off the bat,
Mm,
right? And look at the senior leaders who people gravitate towards. Start doing your homework, start going to town halls or asking questions. Now that's where it comes, growing your network. I would go, so for instance, if I'm in business unit A, now I want to go to business unit B, I want to find a way I'm going to ask my boss, hey, do you know anybody in that business unit? 9 times out of 10 is going to be yes, or they'll find somebody. You go to business unit B, hey, tell me about your business. And by the way, who leads us? And then start getting some names, doing your research online, LinkedIn or other, right? Start looking at
hmm
company news. And now pare down the senior leader that you want to network with, right? You're not going to go in and say, be my mentor, but you want to start networking, right? Gaining that trust. And so that's how you identify them. And again, as you engage them, let's just say you identify a person or persons, send a nice, thoughtful intro letter, right? Send an agenda ahead of time. Let them know what you want to cover. Get personal. We're Latino, so stay personal, right? So
Yeah, that's one of our superpowers. That's for sure. Yeah,
that's right. But get personal. Ask those questions. Don't get crazy personal, but
yeah.
just ask about their family. Um, ask what's important to them. Ask what keeps them up at night. They'll tell you, and you'll find that again 9 times out of 10 those discussions will go very well, especially if you're well prepared and you lead it right. Um, and that's how you engage them. And then they'll a lot of times you'll have a follow up after. Hey, let's touch base in a couple of months, or maybe it's to the point where they ask you, "Hey, I got this thing here. Can you lean in and help?" And that would be an immediate opportunity for you. That's happened to me in the past as well. So really, depending on the conversation, depending on the need, will will help determine what the next steps of that relationship will be. But that's how it starts. Once you do one, you can get many mentors inside and outside the organization.
I like that. And one thing that I hear is kind of leaning in with curiosity, be, inquisitive and ask questions like you said. And one thing that I've also noticed between mentors and mentees that the mentors also get something out of the mentee that I've noticed when I've talked to mentors that they learn something from the mentee. So it's almost like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, everybody I mentor, I get something out of it. I learn, right? The other thing too, as a mentor, is I often lean on my mentees for value both ways, right? It's not
Mm,
just me giving, right? It's me getting as well, and that's the expectation in any relationship. And hopefully, it's a give and get. But as you have discussions, again, as you're listening and you're bringing curious to your point, listen for what they need. Listen how you can help personally, professionally. Maybe it's a senior leader and they have a son or daughter who's in college and wants to learn more about X, right? Either you can do it or say, hey, I know somebody in that area. I would love to pair them up. You're a connector. Bottom line is you're adding value. If you know the person likes something, a given sport, and you can make that tie-in, make that connection. If you have something in your skill set that you can also provide, say, hey, I would love to volunteer, whatever, a couple hours a month or whatever it is, and let me help you with that, right? Or help a team member of yours with that. But bottom line is find ways to generate and provide value because again, once you do that, um, that mentor will turn into an advocate and hopefully a sponsor very quickly.
mm. And I'm glad we're talking about this because it also adds value to the young Latino, young Latina to be able to say, I also bring value, as a mentee to the mentor. So I'm glad that we're talking about that. Without going too deep into the rabbit hole, can you tell our audience what sponsorship is?
Yeah, I mean, sponsorship is somebody who basically vouches for you. I mean, it's just kind of put
Mm,
it in our kind of terms here. Someone who vouches for you, someone who's going to fight for you, who's going to create opportunities for you. And you're not out, you don't always have to be there. And I know people always say, it's at the decision table when people are talking about promotions or bonuses. That's one piece. But a sponsor will basically
mhm,
take you under their wing and develop you, period. Right.
mm. So it's more than a
Oh my
mentor.
God. Yeah. A sponsor is basically saying, I am going to groom you to be the next great leader. And
Mm,
I want people to know that I have groomed you to do that. Like you're my protege. And so that's a big deal. Again, kind of putting it back on you. If you had a bunch of kind of kids, right, to sponsor, which one would you select and why? Right. And what would you need?
mhm,
And let's just say your credibility is on the line for whoever you select. So it better be a good selection, right? Your name is on the line.
mm,
Your job
yeah.
is on the line. So you are going to be
Mhm,
extra picky on who you select. And that's the way it works with sponsors, right? And you're not going to get a sponsor like over a conversation. It has to be a relationship that's organic, that they trust, that you trust. Right? It's got to be both ways, but it's got to be that level of trust that you guys have each other's back, and you know exactly what each other's about personally as well as professionally. But once you have that relationship, then things just can connections, promotions, taps on the shoulder, continued grooming, special programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This person will take it. It is their mission to help you advance in your career.
well put. And you mentioned the word relationship several times, and I think that's a really important. It's all about relationships. It's like, how do we create human to human connections and really, really put value into those relationships?
That's right. Yeah, relationships are everything. I can't, I learned it early on. I use it today. I have a huge network, but it's interesting. This is a fun fact about me. I take every relationship I have extremely seriously. Every
Tell
single
us more
one.
about that.
I don't let anyone go. I don't care if you're a CEO of a company or I don't care if you're a janitor at wherever. Every relationship matters because that relationship is an opportunity for me to showcase my brand and to continue my impact. Right? I shouldn't even put it that way. I want to treat everybody with equity. Right? In fact, it's not a intentional thing. I
Yeah.
just do that. And for me, it goes back to humanity. We're all the same, and so every relationship is important to me.
Yeah, and that shows, really well in how you interact with others. When I see you interact with me, is that it doesn't matter if it's a CEO or a janitor. It's like you are treating an individual,
Right.
and that's so. Thank you for putting that so well. So let's go. Let's jump into a little bit on the background. What can you give us a brief overview of the professional background and within your current role?
Yeah, of course. So I currently work for AbbVie, which is a pharmaceutical company, global pharmaceutical company, and everything I'm talking about here is my own opinion. I just got to put that caveat out there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I've been with AbbVie for almost 5 years. I'm currently director of cultural competency, and so basically what that means is finding strategic ways to plug into communities. So we provide experiences, materials that meet their needs, right? Because it's not a one size fits all out there. Latinos are different from white, are different from black, are different from Asian, right? So it's my job to find those connections and be able to speak their language, so to speak, right, from an experience perspective. So that's what I do at Abby today, as well as being an ERG leader, employee resource group leader. Involved in a lot in our just a lot of our enterprise initiatives. I support our enterprise, various teams. So I do a lot for Abby. And
Yeah.
and the way I ended up there is I kind of fell into it. To be honest, throughout my career, I've been a project program manager throughout my career, many different industries, always in big corporate environments. So I know how to navigate corporate and the global and enterprise. I know how to do that. Over the past couple of years, though, given all my work with the Latino community and everything I do and the relationships I built, this new role, director of cultural competency, came forward, and it was an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for me to lean into it, to find ways to leverage culture to advance business. In the end, that's what it's about. And so that's what I do today, and it's an exciting space. We're making a lot of great, we're doing a lot of great things, and for more to come this year, I'm doing some really big transformational stuff. I can't announce it just yet, but yeah, we're doing big things, and taking culture and being able to drive business is a big part of that.
Hmm. One word that comes to mind is impact. The impact that you're having not only on a professional level, but on a personal level, on the Latino level. Tell us a little bit more of what your definition of an impact in the Latino community.
For me, impact and results value all go together. Everything I do is very thoughtful, right? And it's always in a spirit of impact in one way. So I'm impacting someone's life via career. I'm impacting a business, via my job. I'm impacting a community and being able to plug into it. One of the things I do is I put a lot of thought before I act. So even like conversations like these, or if I get involved in anything, I do what I call thinking time, and then I map out. I have a whiteboard right here, and I start mapping out a strategy. Okay, what's the opportunity? What do I want to achieve, and how am I going to do it? Right? Who do I need to involve in doing it? And then to your point, what's the impact of me doing this? I don't like to do this just for the sake of doing it. I don't want to just be busy, right? I got to add value. So, for instance, with Latinos, first thing I want to do, the impact I want to make is I want to get more Latinos into senior level roles, and even mid management senior level roles like director, senior director, etc. So everything I do, these talks and my programs and everything is meant to deliver impact towards those goals. Or if we have a discussion of mentorship, I'm saying, okay, what's the result you're trying to achieve, and how can I impact you getting there, right? So everything I do is very thought out in terms of what are the results I want to achieve and what's the max value and impact I can offer for that.
So speaking of impact, let's jump into the Latino Leadership Club. Can you introduce the club and share with us the transformation that you're doing with this program and how that experience is unique for Latinos?
So the Latino Leadership Club is basically it's a leadership development program. And I just call it club, so it's more interactive and action focused. I've taken a lot of leadership programs, and one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of great content in them. Usually, and you make some good connections. But I didn't find any programs that held you to account, that actually said, okay, I expect results. So that's the first thing. In my program, I developed it to drive towards results. I'm a business focused guy, and I'm always looking for the results. And even when I mentor, people come, hey, can you mentor me? first thing it says, okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it right, and I expect something at the end. I expect you to get some results, and those results can be getting a VP mentor, right? Getting a lateral, being taking a volunteer leadership role, whatever that is. I expect those things, right? There's no not doing those things. And so same thing with my program. So I'm like, first of all, I'm gonna make it accountability focus. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to break it up between 5 months because I want to give you time to develop, right? And I want to see progress over those 5 months.
Mm.
We're going to use my book as background, right? The book is very goes deep in how to do things, so it's very insightful. We cover videos again how to do things. So with me, it's really taking concepts and putting into practice, and then hold you accountable for practicing and then showing results for the practice, the impact, right? And for me, at the end of the day, it's about how did you impact your career, your development, your business, your relationships. Um, those are big questions. And at the end of my program, if you do all the things we cover, you'll have that impact. You'll have those results. And I'm not saying I'm going to create like, an army of strong leaders after
Mm.
5 months because leadership is a lifetime journey. But what I am saying is once you get that confidence going and you do it once, then it's just rinse and repeat. Now you just do it in another area and you do another area. And all of a sudden, now my job is done. I'm just like, keep me posted on how far you go in your career. Literally,
Yeah.
that's how it works. One quick story around that is I remember there's this one store manager. I don't know if he's a store manager or store leader. I mean, anyhow, he was a part of a national chain in Florida, and he's like, I want to ask, this GM, general manager in his current state, to be my sponsor. He goes, it feels right. We have a good relationship, but I never asked him. I was like, well, we'll ask him, right? Here's how to ask him. And he asked him, and the guy says, of course, I'll be your sponsor. And next thing you know, this GM is he is introducing him to GMs all across the country. So now you go from this store kind of leader to somebody who's known across the country now within the network at the highest levels from one conversation about sponsorship. So that is a story about transformation. I have multiple stories like that from people that go through my cohort, but that's the
Wow.
power of it, right? It's not this, every single insight is going to provide astronomical value, but the two or three that do are going to ones that are going to provide the astronomical value. And it really depends on your current situation and what's available to you.
Mhm. What I love about that story in the program is that you're working kind of like on the core. You're making an impact with these individuals, and it almost creates an amazing ripple effect, right? Where plant the seeds with these Latinos. And I love also that you're doing it for 5 months. It is not just transactional. You're like, it's more than that. Like you said, it's accountability, and to be able to go 5 months. Why? To be able to process that. Because a lot of the programs that I see out there, it doesn't have that stickiness. And with you being 5 months, and they go out there and process, they come back. So that to me, the way I hear it is you're working on the core and how on their mindset and how they see things, because things are going to happen with their lives, but now you're better equipping them, if you will.
That's exactly right. Like, and you'll be ready for any situation, right? And again, you can advance in different topics at your own pace.
Mhm.
What this
Mm.
course does, it organizes your development, right? Because before this, you're just like everything's out there. It's like the world's out there. It's like holy crap, where do I even start, right? What's going to hit the mark? This tells you exactly what to do and how to do it, right? Now it just depends on
Mm.
you, allocating the time. And we all have, we're all busy and we have families, and also I get that, but do what works best for you, and that's the whole point of it.
I like that. So you show up, you create that roadmap, that template for success. I love that. Can you give us a little bit of maybe some common patterns or insights that you're noticing among the Latino cohort?
One is everybody loves supporting each other. I didn't see that one coming.
Aha.
And the cohorts are all best friends. Everybody loves learning about each other, sharing each other's stories. I had groups even within companies, they didn't know about each other, and they're like, no, they're meeting offline. The connections that are being made, that's the thing I didn't know that was going to happen, and now it's phenomenal, right? It's phenomenal to see that. That's number one. The other thing is people really take this seriously. From the first class to the last class, it's a complete transformation as far as image. I remember when I first class, you see the dirty backgrounds or the kitchens and all of this. people aren't dressed well. By the end of it, oh man, everybody's on point, sharp, professional.
I wonder why, because you talk a lot about executive presence, and that's a big thing of yours. So they start to see that and learn that.
That's right. I come into that last meeting all the time. I'm like, holy crap! Like, who are these people? It's just a vision of professionalism, right? I was like, now if I think that, I can't even imagine what people at their companies think of you show up like that. It's like, holy crap! Like, this is the
Mm.
real deal, right?
So you are literally seeing the transformation.
That's right. I see a transformation. I see the transformation as prep. Being thoughtful and prepared. Being prepared is my number one pet peeve in the history of pet peeves.
Mhm.
And so, in my course, I test. I shouldn't say test, but I guess I kind of do test by calling people. Hey, what were your thoughts about this video? What were your thoughts about this chapter? How did the conversation go with your manager? Right? I put you on the spot. So if you're,
Well, I mean, you talk about the accountability, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
I can tell if you didn't do it right, or
This guy is serious. Yeah. So you almost start to see a shift, if you will.
oh yeah, right there. I don't see that ever again after that.
So I'm seeing hearing a pattern, like when we talked about mentorship, like you have to have some sort of clarity coming into it, and now be able to you come into this program, accountability for yourself, and that's something that we don't talk a lot about. Is we put that on somebody else instead of putting that. Yes, we want to have a mentor, a sponsorship, or in your case, a facilitator, but also the accountability for ourselves. And sometimes I see that's lacking.
That's the biggest thing. I don't. I understand there's systemic biases out there. I'll always give that. However, I've made it. I work for a global company. I was a kid in the hood. If I can make it, you can make it. Period. That's all I'm going to say about that, right? And and if you apply yourself, right, you put in the work, you develop yourself, you develop your network, you do all these things that we cover. There is no reason, zero reason why you shouldn't reach your full potential. Period. Right? The entire you have all the control. Nobody else does. If you are a strong leader, if you're a strong networker, strong communicator, have great executive presence, oh my God, you're going to be a shining star. Everybody's going to want you, right? So as soon as you start operating that way, you know, um, biases, imposter syndrome, all that stuff just starts to kind of fall away, right? And now you're
Mm,
operating differently, and that's my goal is to
yeah.
get you to operate differently, confidently, impact focused, all these things that we're talking about.
You talk about a lot of great things, the confidence. And we know we're talking about your cohort and some of my clients where they do sometimes lack that confidence. But once they have that clarity, that awareness, that roadmap, it's almost like small compounding interest, the same way it works in finance. I could start seeing it. I bet you see it, and you talked about you start seeing that growth. They become more confident. Have a more of a bigger impact and executive presence. You could see the huge transformation, as you call it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The confidence is number one, and as soon as you start believing yourself, you are a dangerous professional in a great way,
I like
right?
that.
That's where you need to be. Again, once you're there, yeah, once you're there, my work is done. You just keep me posted on how your career goes.
A dangerous professional. And I love that you're planting all these amazing seeds, and then they flourish on their own. And one of the things that I always hear that I use is your network determines your net worth.
Yeah, that's right. And everybody can have a great career. Just apply yourself, develop your network.
Have a program coming up. Can you give us some dates? And I'll post a link. But I know there. Can you tell us a little bit about them? What the start date is?
I run two cohorts a year, starting March 12th, and we do them in the evenings. I have a full time job, but it's only a couple hours a month that I do
Mhm.
these. So we meet once a month, and we meet the second Wednesday of every month after hours. And so that's our program. We do it for 5 months, and then my next one will start in September. So if people are interested, let me know. I know you'll provide the information.
Okay.
Contact me. Go to my website. Let me know you're interested, and I'll add you to the cohort.
And I'll make sure to have those links for the audience. So let's go into. You mentioned the Latino Leadership book, and obviously you wrote that book. Can you share some key insights on the book for our listeners?
Well, it's filled with insights. There's probably thousands of insights in it.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to what I talked about earlier, is always be prepared. Put in a thought before you act. Put in a thought before you show up to a meeting. Have great questions ready, right? Know where you want to go with things. The more you put in that thought, the clearer it'll show to everybody, whether it be senior leader or anybody below. They're like, oh, okay, they know where they're going, they know exactly how they're going to get there, and what they need to do is like, that's a leader, right? So that'd be my number one thing is putting that thought and putting the work to do that.
Ah, fantastic. So let's go into in regards to the community, the impact. So when you think about what do you think when we're doing what are we doing well as a community, as a Latino community?
We have a lot of fight, a lot of passion for our culture, which is phenomenal. I love that. That's what I love: is the energy, the fight, the passion, the pride. We're very rich. We're very talented. And as far as our at least or I should say everybody, yeah, we're talented across the board. So that's what I love about our community. Just that that toughness, that grit, all those things, just very special.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one thing that we have is I'm going to echo your word, the grit and tenacity. I see that because a lot of us we're kind of like almost survival mode. We have to learn the language. We come from a place of lack, but that also is our superpower because we really work at it. So let's talk about where do you see areas where we as a Latino community could improve?
Number one is we need to focus on developing ourselves into stronger leaders. Period. Right? We want these senior level leadership roles, but unless you put in the work to get there, it's that can't change, right? If we don't put in the work. So that's why it's so critical, and that's why I focus on everything I do, and I know the stuff you do is we have to develop as a community, because if we don't, we're always going to be behind. And I heard a quote, or so I always reference a quote: if you are not putting in the hard work to develop, not just in your job, but to develop yourself, you're giving your spot to somebody who is. And I
Mm,
can guarantee you, anybody who's going after these bigger roles, 100% of them are developing. So if you are not doing that, you're not going to get those roles. It's just simple. It's simple math. And so that's why these conversations, let's keep them going. We have to create the urgency. We have to create the tools, which we have the tools. We have to create the coaches. We have coaches, right? But as a community, we have to lean into this thing and lean in hard and lean in together. And once we start doing that, things will change.
fantastic. So considering the Latino GDP is $3.5 trillion or so, yet our dollar often leaves our community quickly. How can we improve that in circulating that within the Latino business and within the Latino community?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to invest in Latino businesses where you can, especially if you're in Latino areas. You find ways to use your dollar there. Obviously, we work in a big world, and there's your dollar can go so many places, and so do what works best for you. But whenever you can, put that dollar into Latino community where it makes sense for you. But let's focus on those companies who care about us. Let's focus on the businesses that represent us, and let's be thoughtful about where we put our money.
I agree with you totally, and hence the Latino Engine podcast. I would like to get your final thoughts. Any advice or message you'd like to share with our listeners?
Focus on development. I can't say it loud enough, far enough, strong enough. And not just you, but everybody you touch. Get everybody to start talking about this. It is super critical. It helps you interview better. It helps you think about your careers better, career options. It helps you put people into your network that are going to help you better, right? And not just you, but if you have a great network, that network is going to impact everybody you network with, right? Around you. There's so much potential, untapped potential, and untapped impact that we need to take advantage of, and it has to start with our own development. So the quicker we start to focus, the better off we'll be.
Ref, thank you. So many good stuff in here. Thank you for what you do for the Latino community, making an impact. What I love about you is that you're not just a person that says he's going to do it. He does it, and you keep doing it. You keep reinventing yourself. Again, I know you and I had a conversation about this year. You're very analytical, you have the approach, and then you move forward. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for taking the time for being here on Latino Engine.
Absolutely. Thank you. Talk soon.
You got it.